All right. Looks like we are ready to go. Thank you for joining, if in fact you've already connected in. And for those of you that are going to be watching me on the replay, I want to say thank you as well for watching the replay. If this is your first time with me, my name is Rhonda M. Jordan, and today we're going to be focusing on a topic that I think is very timely and something that most people are probably trying to figure out how to do, or maybe you already have a way of doing this, but some of the information you're going to hear today could assist you in the process. So, if in fact you are watching live, feel free to drop in where it is you're watching from, city and state, say hello. And if in fact you're watching the replay, I'd love to know where you're connecting in from as well. Now, one of the things I want to share with you is today I'm actually trying something new because I'm not afraid to try things and potentially break things as well. And what I'm doing that is new is not only broadcasting into YouTube or on YouTube, I'm also broadcasting to my Facebook page, business page that is, where I very rarely post, but there's lots of people hanging out over on Facebook on that particular business page. And so I didn't want to leave them out. So if you're watching for the first time from the Facebook page, welcome to you as well. So, today, what we're going to be discussing is the September reset plan. Specifically, I'm going to share with you what I like to do during the month of September in order to get business back on track, if you will. Now, for a lot of people, maybe you've taken the summer off. You wanted to spend time with family, with the kids, do some traveling, whatever the case may be. And so maybe some of the business stuff that you had hoped to get done has fallen by the wayside. Well, that happens. It happens to all of us. And the important thing is that you understand you can get your business back on track. And so today we're going to discuss my plan, and hopefully, this is a plan that can work for you as well by simply adopting the strategies that I'm going to be mentioning. I'm also going to be making reference to some other videos that I believe will help you, things that I've recorded and live streams that I've done that I really believe will help you get on track. Remember, we are coming into a very a buying season, if you will. Fourth quarter is a big buying season, and for a lot of people, that's where they make the bulk of their revenue. So it just makes sense for us to get back on track this month. All right. So, again, if in fact you have any questions, feel free to drop those into the comment section as well. Also, if you are watching from Facebook, do me a favor and drop in a comment and let me know that you're watching from there. And of course, all of my YouTube family, I appreciate you being here each and every time. All right, I hope you've got your notepad ready because we're going to be going through lots of information. As you may know, I always have my notes in front of me. So if you see me glancing down, the reason for that is I'm actually looking at my notes. I've got lots of them and I don't want to miss anything because I believe every single thing is going to be valuable in some way to you. All right, enough chatter. Let's get right into the information. So I want you to start treating September like January. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, as you know, during the month of January, people, they've had some time to reflect, let's say the latter part of December, early January, and essentially they're starting to think about in many ways how they can have a better year, how they can have a more productive year, how they can get into better shape. And for lots of people, they're trying to figure out how they can make money, lose weight, and so forth. And so instead of us doing what everybody else does, and when I say us, I mean us collectively, all those of you who are watching this, what we should start doing is getting a head start on everybody else and treating September like most people are going to treat January. And when I say most people, I'm talking other solopreneurs, people, business owners, and so forth. We're going to do a reset, if you will. We're going to look back. One of the things I'm going to suggest to you is go back to your original goals that you set in January of this year year. And we're going to start reconsidering some of those and figuring out which ones we're really going to go after during these last 4 months of the year. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is to tell you it's not too late. There are many of the goals that you have set or set back a few months ago, back in January probably, that you can still achieve. Now, it's going to mean that you've got to put your head down, you've got to have a good strategy, and you've got to be willing to go to work. Now, I'm not saying, reckless abandonment and the only thing you're going to do is business, because again, I don't believe in that. I've always been a believer that my business, and hopefully you believe this as well, has to revolve around our lifestyles. Family comes first in terms of if we're going to compare that to business. And so for me, one of the things that I like to do is to look at those goals and figure out which ones I'm going to go after. Now, it might mean that some of the goals that you set, we're going to have to push those into next year, because what I want you to really focus in on are the things that are most important to you. So, for example, if one of your goals this year was to focus on creating or building your email list, well, there's plenty of time this year yet for you to continue or to start building an email list. And you'd be surprised at how quickly you can build an email list if you have the right tools and things in place, the right types of ways of attracting people. The second thing is maybe one of your goals was to be more profitable or to start generating an income. Well, by all means, there's time to do that, because as I just mentioned, we're coming into the time of the year where people are looking for business products they can buy. They're looking for courses. They're looking for software that can assist them. So you just have to end up positioning yourself between the individual and the money that they're going to be spending. And your product is going to be the way that you're going to do that, with its focus on solving issues that those individuals have. Now, another thing that you might also say is, well, I just don't have the time, or I'm not really familiar with how to build a product. Well, don't worry about that either, because I have a solution for you. And we talked a lot about that on last week's training. So I'm going to reference back to that as well in case you missed it. All right, now I'm going to give you some things that we need to focus on in order to get this training underway, in order to get this reset in place. And one of the biggest things is just understanding this is a natural reset point for people. If you think about it, people's vacations have come to an end in many cases. The kids are back in school. It's getting colder outside, so instead of people being out as much, they're indoors. And oftentimes that means that they are watching YouTube videos, they are watching or they're scrolling through their feed, but with a different intent, because a lot of people realize that the money they spent over the summer has set them back, and they're looking for a way to generate some additional income. So for those of you that do in fact are in the area or want to be in the area where you're teaching people how to earn additional income, perfect time for you. Now, what if you're not in that area? Perfect time for you as well. For those of you that are, knitters or crocheters, or, you recommend books or whatever, those indoor type activities, decorating, Christmas decorating, Halloween themed stuff, whatever your niche is, if it has something to do with indoors, this is your time to shine, because guess what? People are back indoors again in many cases. All right. So it's time for us to really go at it and put together a plan and strategy that is going to allow us to accomplish the goals that we want. All right. Now, the other thing is this. In addition to having this plan in place, I really want you to have your eyes set on Q4. Okay, October through December, because remember, that's the buying season. That's when you see things like Black Friday and Cyber Monday and Small Business Saturday, and I forget what they call Tuesday now. If you remember what they call Tuesday, pop that into the comments so I can shout that out as well. But the whole thing is, I really want you to be prepared for the strategy or for the things that are going to happen with products and or affiliate marketing where you're promoting products. Okay. All right. Now, s- I'm going to give you a plan. And this is where I want you to start writing things down, okay? If you haven't started already. All right, so the first step in this process of resetting is I want you to look back at your first 8 months of the year because August is just about done if you're watching this live with me. All right, and I want you to think about what worked, what absolutely worked for you. Okay. And in order to do that, you may have to go back and look at some of your analytics. If you are building on Instagram or Facebook or even YouTube, look at what worked for you. If you already have some products that you're selling, look at which ones actually did the best. All right. The second thing is what didn't work. And that is just as important as what worked. Okay. Evaluate what didn't work. So perhaps you tried some different things this year and they just did not work out. Now, it could be because you didn't put as much emphasis into them as you did the things that worked. Okay. It also might be that you veered outside of your area of expertise. That could be another reason why it didn't work. Another thing could be that you shifted audiences or niches, I should say, and your audience is just not responding. And that's very normal because when you change niches, you have to remember the people who originally came to you and watched and consumed your content, they came to you for that original reason. So if you shifted gears on them, it's just natural that they're no longer interested and perhaps may leave or, just stop consuming the content the way that they have in the past. Other things that may have happened might be that, for example, you only talked about something one or two or three times. And remember, promoting, if it's an offer that you have in place, promoting is going to be 80% of your activity. So maybe you just didn't promote enough. That could be another thing. If you started building your audience, and let's say you started posting, or your goal was to build your audience and you started posting regularly, and then you took 2 months off. Well, that's probably the reason why that didn't work. So, my whole point is you really have to know what worked and you have to know what didn't work, and you have to know the reasons why for both. Now, the next thing is this is a big question, and I have to ask myself this all the time: what needs to change? Okay. What do you need to change? For some of us, it might be stop consuming as much content as you're consuming and start implementing the things you know you need to do in order to grow your own audience. That might be a big one for some people. It might be that you got stuck in the scroll. So maybe you started watching one TikTok video and then, an hour later, you're still watching TikTok videos with people doing dance trends. Well, you've got to start asking yourself, how did that help me grow my own business? Okay, so that might be one to think about. And then another thing that I think some people run into is they don't know how to say no. There are going to be certain things you're going to have to say no to in order to accomplish your business goals. There are going to be some, perhaps things that you're invited to, and you know that you made a commitment to yourself to work on your digital product or your sales page or your content creation or, whatever it happened to be. There are going to be some things that you say no to, but next time. And it doesn't mean you have to completely isolate yourself from things. Another thing might be maybe you need to look at, perhaps getting some assistance, getting some help. So, perhaps you might need to bring in somebody that, can help clean the house, or instead of you doing the grocery shopping, you'd order your groceries online and drive over, pick them up, or have them delivered. Okay. I'm not a grocery shopper. I've been shopping online for groceries for years, and I'm telling you, that alone saves me over an hour per week. Because, first of all, I don't know where anything is in the grocery store, and why should I do it when somebody else can do it? Okay. So, think about those things, what needs to change, and how you can get back some of your time. And then there are some things that, quite frankly, you just kind of have to, not be as concerned about. I'm not saying you completely give it up or whatever, but maybe instead of doing a deep clean of your house, every week, maybe you can do it every other week if you can't afford to bring somebody in. So my goals are for you to do an evaluation of things that can change so that you can free up time and actually make some of this stuff work for you, because it certainly can work. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to do is to talk, and let me know if in fact you're seeing any issues with the stream. Let me know that, if you could drop that into the comment section for me. All right. Now, another thing is, um, as you start to think about things that you did, I also want you to, I also want you to put yourself in a position. Hold on for me just one second. I think I forgot to put this into focus mode. There we go. Not that I'm sharing my screen, but I want to make sure I do that because it becomes distracting to me. All right. So I also want you to, score yourself. What wins did you have? Because sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't go back and look at the things that we absolutely did a fantastic job of. So if you started off with 0 email subscribers and now you're at 250, well, celebrate that as a win. Other things that you want to look at is going to be, think about something that you're really proud of. And I want you to just take some time right now and write it down. Something that you accomplished in your business this year that you're really proud of. Write it down, because sometimes you need to be able to refer back to that on a regular basis so that you can see you're not where you started. You didn't start this year with that goal already accomplished. All right. So, any questions as we're going through, feel free to drop those into the chat. Also, if in fact you have need clarification on anything that I'm sharing, by all means, make sure that you drop that in as well. All right. Next thing, step number 2 is I want you to recommit to your core goals. So, one thing that I know I'm guilty of, and perhaps you are too, is sometimes we fall into the trap of chasing shiny objects, okay? Shiny object syndrome. And I want you to go back to the goals that you set. And if in fact they're still valid, remember the goals you set at the beginning of the year, and if in fact you still want to go after that, then you're going to have to focus. You're going to have to, as I said, stop chasing the shiny object syndrome. And typically, what I mean by chasing the shiny object syndrome is continuing to look for a way to build a better mousetrap. There are lots of different ways that you can grow your audience. There are lots of different ways that you can create content. But what I want you to do is to pick a path that you know has worked for someone else who is giving you the strategy, and I want you to follow that. I don't want you to look at 10 different people before you make a decision, or you've made a decision and now somebody else is presenting it, and here you go off and down that path of chasing that shiny object to see if this is going to be a better thing. All that's going to do is set you back. I can promise you that. It will just simply set you back. So just understand that, things like that, you've got to really focus in on a single thing and go for it. Now, the second thing is, I want you to think about your goals for the rest of the year, or for that you want to go after. And maybe the goals that you set at the beginning of the year, maybe there's just too many that you set. And so now what I want you to do is to focus on between 1 to 3 goals. And it might be that you only focus on one goal. Maybe your goal this year is just simply to grow the email list. Maybe your goal this year is to start generating, $500 a month by the end of the year. Maybe your goal is just to simply get to a point where you have a sales funnel in place. Maybe your goal is to start promoting actively the affiliate marketing products that you committed to. But just pick something and we're going to focus in on that. Now, the other thing is, I can tell you this: when you just have smaller, focused goals, you're more likely to hit them. Let me give you an example, and I've talked to or mentioned this in my trainings previously. One of the books that I recommend that you read is a book called The 12-Week Year. If you click the link below this video, I have my YouTube, I'm sorry, my Amazon shop is listed in the YouTube description. And then I have a book list, and The 12-Week Year is one of those books. Why do I recommend that? Because in the 12-week year, what it has you do is to take 12 weeks and really focus on between 1 and 3 goals. Okay. And during that time, it gives you a plan that you follow. And one of the things that you're required to do if you're going to follow the plan is to score yourself each week on your execution of the steps necessary to achieve the goals. But the important thing is to know that they're telling you, let's focus on no more than 3 goals. And I'm a firm believer in that, because I know for me, if I have too many goals to focus on, then you're just cutting up your time, and really not as much as getting accomplished as if you just say, I'm simply going to focus on growing my email list, or I'm simply going to focus on, promoting my digital product, a single digital product, let's say. All right. Now, another thing that I want you to think about is, what is it that you want to focus on for the remainder of the year? And what strategy, what plan, what are you going to do in order to really make that goal happen? Because 9 times out of 10, you know the steps necessary to make the goal a reality. It's just a matter of, you probably are distracted by having way too many goals. If you've got 5 or 10 goals, that's a lot of goals to try to go after. I can't tell you enough. Get it pared down, 1 to 3 goals. And then, as I mentioned, how are you going to go after that? How are you going to achieve that? What steps are going to be necessary? What things do you need to do every single week? How do you need to promote it? How do you need to, what do you need to create? So ask yourself those types of questions as well. Now, another thing, as we get into step number 3 here, is I want you to reset your routines. All right. So I want to give you some things that I do, and some of the things that I think will help you. As I mentioned, I'm a big believer in following the 12-week year, but I don't do it all throughout the year. There are certainly times when I'm not, probably more times that I'm not following the 12-week year than I am following it. But I can tell you, when I have followed it, I've achieved my goals. All right. Now, the thing I want you to think about is this. All right. What is your morning routine? How are you starting your day? So if you are resetting during the month of September, how are you going to start your day? Are you going to get up in the morning and make sure that you have a to-do list of no more, I would say no more than 3 things business related? Now, what you do personally, that's a totally different thing. But what I find is, when I only have 3 things on my to-do list, business related, I get them done. If I have 10 things on the list, it's just not going to happen. And I'm not saying that you can't have a running list of things that you're going to do, but for a daily basis, focus on 1 to 3 things. Now, one of the things I suggest you do is look at that to-do list first thing in the morning if you can, or as early in the morning as you start your working day. Let's put it like that. Okay. And the reason for it is you want to set the tone for what you know you have to get accomplished. This is the way I do it. And then another thing that I found that really helps me is I do something that Brian Tracy talks about, which is eat the frog, which means you simply do the most difficult thing first. Because if you have three things on your list and one of them is inevitably more difficult or more challenging or is going to take you more time, focus on that one first and get it done. Because if you do, the rest of the day and accomplishing the other two goals, let's say, that's going to be a breeze because you've already done the most challenging thing. And it kind of gives you this feeling of, wow, I got that done. You know, that big thing, I don't have to think about it all day because it is done. All right. So that's my first thing. Another thing that I do is when I do get in my car to run errands or whatever I'm going to be doing, I have trained myself that if I'm in the car between 8 in the morning and let's say 4 p.m. in the afternoon, that I'm listening to something on, let's say, Audible that is going to help me some type of personal development. So, for example, I have, and I keep going back to this book. I have lots of other books on my Audible selections, but if I'm going through a 12-week year, then I'm listening to the 12-week year, but I also have the book as well. And so that way it reinforces the concepts. Another thing is, you know, if there's something that you're struggling with, for example, one of the books that I also listened to over and over again was a book called Hello Fears. And I would encourage you, again, all these books are in my Amazon shop, so you can check them out there. But Hello Fears, because when you have a fear that you're needing to overcome, whatever it happens to be, sometimes it helps to hear how other people have done it. And so I listen to that book quite often. There's another book by Rachel Rogers that I listen to almost on repeat as well, and that is called We Should All Be Millionaires. Okay. So that, and again, I have the book for that because I believe that it just reinforces the concepts when you're reading and you're listening. So, mindset training is what I'm talking about. So, that is part of my regular routine. Another thing is my evening routine. When I get ready to start winding down, then one of the things that I'm doing is I'm writing out my to do list for the next day. What I have found is if I start the day without a to do list, I'm all over the place. And the reason for it is you know all these things need to get done, but you haven't prioritized anything. You haven't focused on what needs to be done by a specific date. You haven't done any of that. So if you do it at night, write three things down that you need to accomplish the next day. That way, when you wake up in the morning and you read those three things, you can immediately get started on it, as opposed to waking up and, like I mentioned, you're all over the place because you know all this other stuff needs to get done. All right. Now, another thing is your content creation and content batching. I'm just going to talk content batching for a second because for those of you that have followed me for any time, I've said to you, if you are building an audience from scratch, it's very doable, but you have to know what you're doing. And the best way to grow an audience from scratch is you have to have content that is specifically directed at the ideal customer or the audience you're looking to attract. So, creating content that's going to attract them is critical to your success. So, how do you do it? You batch the content. You don't sit down and create just, for example, when I do my email messages for the month is the way I do it. So I send out an email message to my list every Tuesday morning at 6:05 a.m. Don't ask me why it's 6:05. I've just found that that time works and my audience responds to it. So, instead of me writing one email message, I write all four at the same time because I'm already in that mode of, thinking about things that are going to be helpful to them, thinking about how I can present it, thinking about how I can string them together so that they all kind of work together with one another. So, same thing if you're creating videos, for example, don't just sit and script one video, script four videos or 3 videos or whatever the number is that works for you. If you are creating content that's going to be posted, so let's say, for example, you're doing reels because in order to attract people to you, you're using Instagram or Facebook. And one of the ways to do that is by creating reels. Don't just create one reel, create two or three. So, and do it all at the same time. That's what I mean by batching content. Okay. Now, another thing is your audience building task. Okay. One of the things that you can do is declutter your work. I'm sorry, giving simple. I'm sorry. Let me go back because I skipped over and there's something else I want to share with you. Audience building task, and I talked about that a little bit. The emails, videos, and social media. So because you have to have a way of attracting people. Same thing. Even if you're doing ads, then you have to make sure that the ad has been written and it's ready to go. If that's going to be your way of actually building your audience. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is something that I just spent about, I don't know, not all day, but probably a total of maybe 3 consecutive days or 3 days, I would say, not consecutive days and not the entire day, decluttering my office. Okay. So where you see me filming, I am actually in a guest bedroom, not my actual office. When I'm working in my audience or in my office, it has a tendency to just, I don't know, be a paper magnet. And so I just spent time decluttering my office because one of the things that I found is I'm way more productive when I work in my office as opposed to, let's say, sitting on the couch. That's just me. Maybe you're completely the opposite. But what I was finding was I didn't even want to go into my office because there was just stuff all over the place. So it made more sense for me to declutter, take some time, allocate it toward decluttering so it could be cleaned up and ready to go. That way, as I start working in September, really going at it, I don't have any excuse as to why I can't work in my office where I know I'm more productive. Think about where you're more productive and make sure that that area is decluttered. It is ready for you to work, ready for you to get things done. All right. Now, another thing is setting time blocks. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of this technique, and it actually works. It's the Pomodoro technique. And with the Pomodoro technique, what you do is you work consecutively for 25 minutes, and then you stop and you take a 5 minute break. Then you go back and you do another 25-minute stretch, stop, take a 5 minute break. And you can do that. A lot of people will do it for 2 hours, and then you take a longer break from that. Now, what that allows you to do is to get some focused energy and attention going. Um, that is another thing that I have used, and it definitely works for me. Another thing is, for example, when I'm in my office, I do have a television set in there, but what I tend to do is I will tune it to YouTube and I will turn on, like a lo-fi type music, if you will. There's all sorts of things out there that you can put on, and all it does is just give you music that you're listening to, but I'm not distracted by the picture that's on the television because it's not a movie, it's not a sitcom, it's not anything like that. I'm just hearing the sound. Figure out what works for you and incorporate that into your actual routine. Okay. And then another thing is, I think it is important that you schedule planning sessions. So when you are looking at how you're going to accomplish the goals for the rest of the year, make sure you have scheduled in some times where you're actually going to plan. So maybe on Sunday nights, maybe you schedule a window of time of 30 minutes where you plan out the entire next week, what you need to get done. And that's where you can write that list of, 15 things that need to be accomplished and then break it up into 3 per day. So, planning schedules are definitely critical and very important. I just feel like if you don't take the time to plan, then everything's all over the place and you just will not accomplish what you need to do. And that's also something too in the 12-week year. That is one of the aspects of the 12-week year that actually makes it work is you are forced into planning things out and then evaluating yourself at the end of the week to see how you actually executed against the things you planned for. All right. Okay, I'm going to take just a drink of water. If you are learning anything from this, by all means, drop it in and certainly let me know what you plan to do in terms of a reset. All right. So that was step number three. Now, what I want to do is to move into your September action plan. And this is going to be step number four. So, the first thing I want to do is give you some of the things that we've talked about, but things you're going to need to have in place. One of the things you are going to need to have in place is your content plan. And a content plan, as I mentioned, is your way of attracting people into your world. And I think sometimes people don't understand you have to have a content plan that is ongoing. It's not like you set it, you put it into place for a month, and then you just kind of roll off of that. No, your content plan is going to be one of the biggest aspects of your business building strategies. So I want you to think about how are you going to create a way of attracting your audience? Are you going to be doing reels? Are you going to be doing videos? Are you going to create a new ebook? Are you going to do live streams? Live streams, by the way, are a great way for you to start attracting new people into your world. And the reason for it is the platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they tend to push out live streams to more people and not just your existing audience. So it's a way for people to actually find you and, come into your world and start learning from you. So just kind of keep that in mind. Other things that you might think about doing are, if in fact you're going to do reels or shorts, video is a great way to start attracting people into your world, even if you choose not to go live. So just remember, you can use some short form videos. But what I would encourage you to do is if video is your preferred method of growing your audience, make it lead into some longer form content so people can begin to learn from you. Longer form content gives you an opportunity to really expand on the concepts. It gives you an opportunity for people to really get to know you, to learn from you, and potentially get to a point where they're ready to join your email list by requesting one of your lead magnets and then, coming into your world. Because once they're on your email list, now you have the opportunity to keep nurturing them. What that allows you to do is to build the know, like, and trust factors way faster than if someone is just reading, let's say, a post that you put out or quotes that you're dropping in, or you're never showing your face. Now, I know there are some people that absolutely are against showing their face, but do something, even if it's letting people hear your voice, that allows people to get to connect with you and get to know you. Now, the second part of that, so you've got to have a content plan. The second thing is going to be your product or offer. What are you going to be focusing on? Promoting to people. And here's something I want to share with you about this fourth quarter and really ongoing. What I encourage you to do is to pare down all of your offers to a single offer. Okay, something that you can completely focus in on. And I'm going to share more about this in a future video, but I'm going to just tell you something that I did. And this is the reason why I did this. There was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, where I probably had 25 different products. And one of the things I found was having those 25 different products, it was almost difficult to promote them all and to get them out and really give them the information that or the time that they deserved in order for people to learn about them and decide whether or not they were going to move in. And then I learned a strategy, and that strategy is all about focus and focusing in on a single product, expanding that product into a funnel, And none of this is rocket science, but what I've found is that the individuals who have incorporated this strategy have built their business to significant numbers much faster. This is one of the things that you will hear. It's called the concept of 5 1s, essentially. It's one platform, it's one offer. It is, I always have to come back to them. I've got it. Um, I'll write them out for you in just a second so you can see it. But essentially, in this book called Ready, Fire, Aim, which again, I encourage you to read that, that's exactly what he talks about. And his thing is focus on a single offer until you can get it to the point where it is generating $1 million. Okay. And once it's generating $1 million, then you can start adding in as many products as you want because you've likely increased your audience to a size and they've gained enough trust in you that at that point, you're now able to offer additional products that they're going to be ready, willing, and able to purchase. So, what did I do? I collapsed all of my products. I just collapsed them. And I said, I'm going to go through each and every one of these and I'm going to figure out which one is going to be best suited for my audience, where they are right now and where they ultimately want to go. So that's what I'm in the process of launching. It won't launch until September, but changing the entire flow. And I'm simply going to focus in on that one product funnel, if you will. Now, I'm not telling you you have to do that. I'm just telling you that the individuals I know personally who have done it, and it's not just for digital products. I've seen people do it for other areas, other businesses. But what I found in talking to them is they said, once we focused, okay, that's when our business really began to grow. Why? Because you become known for that. You perfect it. You get really good at promoting it. You get really good at answering questions. And when you have 25 different products that you're selling, guess what you also have? You have the responsibility of keeping all of those products up to date. That is a lot of work. And that's where I found myself. I was continuously updating products. And it's like, this is just an awful lot of work. And so collapse everything if you need to, if the strategy makes sense to you, and then go in on the 5 1s. Okay. All right. So we've talked about that. And then the last part of this, of this September plan, and I've alluded to this already, is making sure that you have a personal growth plan in place, a personal development plan. So that might be where you're listening to books or you're reading books or you're watching YouTube videos where concepts are being explained. And what I mean by concepts, it's typically going to be things that allow you to overcome fears. It's going to be things that are going to allow you, to have that motivation to keep moving forward. I'm not talking about watching 10, 15 different ways of growing your email list. I'm talking about the things you are inevitably going to have to deal with as you begin building your business. Because I can assure you, as you start growing, as you start doing certain things, you're going to run across things such as imposter syndrome. And if you don't deal with it, you're going to get stuck with it. You're also going to fail at some things, and you have to start to understand that failing at things doesn't mean you're a failure. It just simply means what you did not work. Okay. So, how you view failure. All I'm saying is you've got to spend time on some personal development if you're going to be out here playing in these internet streets, as I like to say, because it's very easy to, be knocked off your square simply because you didn't experience the growth you wanted to, or simply because, you've got this mind block and it's stopping you from going forward. All right. Another thing I would encourage you to do is to spend some time with personal development, because another thing that is going to happen to you, and mark my words, you can write this down in your notes because at some point you're going to come back to it, is you're going to have somebody say something negative to you or about you. It's going to happen. Inevitably, it is going to happen. I had somebody make a comment on one of my videos the other day. Now, the difference between me and perhaps you, maybe you're not like this, but with a lot of people, is they would have curled up in a ball and cried for, a day or so. I'm not that person. So when the comment was made to me, I immediately responded back, and my words were very professional, but the tone was one like, you have come for the wrong person. And they never responded to me, but So I'm just letting you know that a lot of that has come from me developing myself and not allowing negative comments, not allowing, these folks with keyboard courage, because I promise you, there are going to be people that are going to comment on your video simply because they want to see if they can break you. They want to see whether or not they can, upset your entire day. So those people can come for me all day long. And, I'm coming right back at them. And you also have in your corner things such as block and ban if you need to. Okay. I just want you to be prepared for it. So when it happens to you, you don't let it stop you from moving forward. Okay. All right. I think I have, beat that point to death here. All right. Now, let's also talk about, as I mentioned, that my personal action plan for this year, because I want you to have a personal action plan. My goal for the rest of this year, and I think I had shared this with you earlier, is I really want to focus in on building my email list. That was my 12-week goal. I did accomplish that goal. I didn't hit as much of it as I would like to. So, what that means is I simply have to continue working on it. So, what I did is, as part of the revamping of my product structure, if you will, is I went back to one of my lead magnets and I decided I want to completely redo it. It's going to have a lot of the same content, if you will, but I'm updating it to include things such as how to use AI, prompts that they can incorporate. Because I wrote this lead magnet probably 3 years ago. It's really good, and people still they still ask for it, but I want to redo it in a different fashion. And I talked about this in a previous live stream, which is I want to move it from an ebook to an actual masterclass because I really feel like the ability to have it in the form of a master class and perhaps show some of the prompts and me guiding people through it, I just feel like that's going to be a better presentation of that. Plus, it's going to give me the opportunity to share with people this other thing that I'm working on that I know for a fact is going to help a lot of people. And, I'm excited to be working about it and working on it and excited to be able to share it with you in the near future. And as I said, that's going to be my offer. I've pared it down. So just think that through as well. And then the other thing is I want you to know that if you start putting things into place during September, then by the time you get into October, where you're really finalizing whatever your offer is going to be, whether that's going to be a product or if you're going to go down the path of affiliate marketing, because those are the two things that I'm telling people right now. Pick one of the two. Either you're going to create a product and that's what you're going to be selling during fourth quarter when everybody's got credit cards in hand and ready to buy, or you're going to promote other people's products and use affiliate marketing as your strategy to generate income during this fourth quarter. Pick one, but if you're new, trying to do both, it's too much. So I'm just definitely encouraging you to do that. And then I want you to go all in. I want you to be willing as you start to put things together. Also, I want you to be willing to change your strategy if necessary. If it's absolutely positively not working and you've given it everything that you have, then you can start revising your strategy. Still go after the goal, maybe make some adjustments to the strategy and the plan that you're going to use. All right. Now, step number 5 is we're going to continue to build momentum into Q4, quarter 4, October through December when people are buying. And understand that people don't stop buying in December because of the things we talked about at the top of this live stream. people are going to have that mindset for January and February that they want to have a better year. They want to have a better life. They want to get in better shape. They want to make more money. They're going to have that. So when I talk Q4, just know that December 31st is not the end of everything. That really can take you right into 2026. All right. So now the other thing is I want you to really start thinking about how are you going to prepare for Black Friday and all the way through that week, because that's going to be a big week for you. And I don't want you to wait. And I talked about this in the last two videos, live streams that I did, and I'll link those below once this live stream is over. I don't want you to wait until November to start putting together your Black Friday offer. You really need to start working on that in September and have it finalized by the end of October so that it's ready to go and you can start, promoting, you can start sharing behind the scenes content, let's say in early November, and then launch it sometime during that fourth quarter, specifically to make sure that it is out there during that Black Friday through Cyber Monday timeframe. Okay. Now, the last thing that I would say, let me just check my notes and to make sure that I have not missed anything. Oh, and continuously evaluate how you are operating in terms of working towards your goals. So as you are doing things, you've got to make sure that you're looking at this and saying, is this going to help me achieve my goal? How is it going to help me achieve my goal? What are some things that I need to do to make sure? Maybe it's you have to do more of it. Maybe you need to do more videos. Maybe you need to do more regular posting if you haven't been posting on a regular basis. There's always something that each of us can do to make sure that we are moving closer to our goals. Because as I said, typically, when you don't achieve your goals, it's not a complete mystery to you as to why you didn't. If you go back and evaluate what you did, it's generally pretty easy to figure out what you did, what you didn't do, and what you need to do more of or less of in order to accomplish your goals. All right. So, any questions, any comments that any of you have as we are going through this? I'm just looking at my final notes here to see if there's anything else that I want to share with you as we're going through it. Okay. All right. Let's just see here. Okay. So I think we've probably covered pretty much everything that I wanted to go through. So I really want you sometime this week, for the rest of this week, to sit down and write your plan out. So by the time September 1st rolls around, which I believe is Monday, if I'm not mistaken, depending on when you're watching this, but you want to have this plan ready to go. Right, you're going to come up with the plan and then start executing the plan as soon as you can, but definitely by September 1st, so that you have time to really get it into place, get into the habit of doing it, and then making sure that you're working on whatever your offer is going to be. Now, why do I keep pushing an offer, either the offer or your affiliate marketing strategy? Because I want you to be profitable. I want you to generate some income. I want you to get to a point where, you're not out here just simply for the purposes of building an audience, but you don't do anything with it. People want to go deeper with you. If you have products that you can offer to them, whether it's yours or someone else's, by all means, share that with them. So, for example, maybe there are tools that you use in your business that have been very helpful to you, and you're an affiliate for those. Well, maybe you decide that for this year, affiliate marketing is going to be your strategy, and you're going to share those tools. How can you share them? How can you demonstrate them? How can you show people that they're going to be helpful to them? So that could be it. Also, if you're going the route of an actual product, same thing. What are some of the ways that you're going to share this product with people? How are you going to show them that it can help them? Because remember, products sell when they solve people's problems. When they solve your audience's problems, that's when it's an easy way to sell it. That's an easy route to be able to sell it. If it does not solve a problem, it is not going to sell. So just keep that in mind too as you are developing your products and as you're thinking things through. Okay. All right. So the last thing that I want to end with, because I always like to end with a little bit of mindset, is it doesn't matter what's happened up to this point. You have to give yourself some grace. You have to be willing to say, no, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to fight through these last few months of the year, and I'm going to go after my goals, the goals that I set for myself with tenacity. I'm going to be willing to get back up when I fall down. I'm going to, I'm going to push through. I'm going to, if there's something I don't know, I'm going to figure it out. If there's something I don't know that's necessary for me to be able to sell my products or to be able to do affiliate marketing, well, I'm going to learn it. And you have to have that mindset, because if you look at anybody in this space that came into this space and is doing well, trust and believe every single one of us has had to learn something. Every single one of us has had failures. And most of us have had more failures than you have up to this point. And you know what? We're not done failing. We are going to continue to fail, because I believe that you have to think about the way that, or your way of thinking about failure really has to be, all I did was figure out a way that didn't work. So now I need to do something different. It does not mean that you are a failure. It doesn't mean that you can't be as successful as other people. Because oftentimes when you start having those conversations with yourself, that is nothing more than that negative mindset. More specifically, it's limiting beliefs. And you've got to get rid of those, because most people who give up in this industry, if you will, or no longer pursue their businesses as online marketers, it's because they let their limiting beliefs take them out of the game. All of us have limiting beliefs. All of us have, sometimes I call it the negative committee that meets in your head that makes a decision that you're not going to be successful. You need to become the chairman. You need to dismiss that meeting that negative committee is having and tell them, get out of my way. I can figure this out. Not only can I figure this out, I will figure this out. So you all can go somewhere else, because here you are not needed. You are not welcome. And I'm telling you, I have to have those types of conversations with myself on a regular basis. There's always going to be something we need to learn. And it's going to feel challenging, but you know what? The more you do it, the better at it you're going to get. And so the better you get at it, the more the negative committee, or the less the negative committee has to say about it, because they realize now you have figured it out. So just understand that you can succeed. You just have to be willing to surround yourself by people that are going to encourage you, be a part of groups where people are going the same direction that you're going. And you have to be willing that when someone is telling you you can't do something, and I don't mean the negative committee, I mean people around you that are telling you you can't do something, you have to do one of two things. You either have to limit your exposure to them, you have to get them out of your world completely, or you have to let them know, I've got this. Don't worry about me. I've got this. You handle you, I'll handle me. Okay. And, I like to say, and I'm on my soapbox right now. So I like to say that hopefully you will experience the gift of being 50 years old. And what I mean by the gift of 50, it's not just living to be 50 years old, because I wish you all the longest lives, healthy lives possible. Here's what I mean by the gift of 50. Once you turn 50, you tend to stop caring as much about what other people think. That's what happened to me. Now, maybe some of you who are on here have experienced that. Well, I've had that for a while. And that's one of the reasons why when people come for me in the comments, I'm like locked and loaded and ready to go because I'm not going to let you take me off my square. I know who I am. I know what I was put on this earth to do, and I am not going to allow you to let me not accomplish my mission. And I hope that's your mindset. I hope that's your mindset. And if it isn't, you need to hang around with me a little bit longer because I promise you, you will develop that mindset that you will start pushing obstacles out of your way and simply focusing on the goals that you have because you know this business thing is something you can accomplish. And what I mean by this business is this online business things. You got the skills, you know how to teach it, you've picked an area that you're knowledgeable about. And your people are waiting for you to show up. But because of somebody's negative comment or potentially negative comment, you stay on the sidelines. We're not playing small, not over here. And so I want to make sure that you, in fact, understand that you've got a community of people around you over here, and we will continue to grow. You're going to see me on each Wednesday. I do this training at 12 p.m. Eastern each Wednesday, and the goal is to make sure that I empower as many of you with the knowledge, skills, and things you need to know in order to build a successful business. All right? So, all right, Penny, I'm sorry that you missed the notification. Let's see here. Oh, perfect. Well, welcome. Penny says she just discovered the channel about three days ago, it looks like. I appreciate you being here. And I always like to say to people, I welcome new people. We're all here to learn together. We're all here to push forward and make some incredible things happen. So welcome to the channel and welcome to the community. All right. So with that being said, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Remember, if you need to rewatch this, it will be live on my channel. Also, if you have any business besties that need this kind of encouragement, need this kind of knowledge, then make sure they know about it. I teach things such as how to create and sell digital products, how to create content, email marketing, and then also how to grow income via affiliate marketing. So if any of those work for you, any of those things are things that you want to make sure that you're growing in those areas, then make sure that you meet me back here each Wednesday at noon or at least noon Eastern time, or at least watch the replay. And then finally invite your business bestie so you guys can be building and growing together. So, hey, Zay, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. So again, I want you guys to make this a successful week. I want you personally to write your plan out so we can be in execution mode come September 1st. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you more than you know, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos and on future live streams. Take care and have an awesome day.